Greetings to all our viewers out there. Today on Founder Stories Series, we are joined by a guy who's not just spicing up DeFi, he is rethinking the whole metaphorical kitchen. Co-founder of Spicenet and self-declared Peprika maximalist on X, another sharp mind pushing cross-chain infrastructure into the real world. Matt McConnell, thanks so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. It's Peprika Inferno on X, but it's Spiciest Maximus. That's my co-founder. So I see how that happened. All good. Yeah, it's really good to be here. I love the metaphor you're kicking us off with there. Just for everyone listening, I didn't tell him to say that. He came up with that on his own. So
What is the co-founder's name on X?
yeah, he's Spiciest Maximus.
Awesome. Yeah. The whole it's a Paprika Inferno is your handle, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's just the top question there. What in the world is the whole metaphor with the spice? You've got this whole kind of theme running through Spicenet. So where did all that come from for starters?
Yeah, so I mean, it's just fun. Like we used to have a DEX on Solana called PepperDEX, and it was just because it was like a fun thing. Like we thought we could incorporate these little pepper characters into our brand. At the time, like as a trader in the space, I'd be talking to all my trader buddies, and we would talk about a new opportunity as like a spicy thing.
Mm.
Like, oh, like I found something spicy. So then I kind of wanted to like put that into a brand where you're executing your spicy strategies. That was PepperDEX. Spicenet came from that.
Oh my, that's actually really kind of catchy for sure. Like kind of something that kind of catches your eye, something like, ooh, like that's, kind of like hot. You got to get behind it. That's a
Yeah.
fun idea, and especially in Web3 culture, it seems like there's all these kind of different like mascots and characters. So it's nice that you guys kind of found a natural kind of almost brand for Spicenet from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the product changes and pivots and evolves, and the branding kind of stays ingrained in it. And that's what I love about it. It's like it'll end up being one of those nonsensical things like Apple, where it's like, why is it called Apple? But we'll have like that lore of knowing where it came from. So I love that about it.
Yeah. So those are some lofty aspirations there, comparing yourself to Apple. Do you imagine that someday Spicenet could perhaps carry the household name such as Apple?
Yeah. Spicenet is the Apple of DeFi.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, just throwing out random buzzwords there, but yeah, absolutely. Like we're building something that we think is going to change the world, and yeah, I have to believe as the founder that's building that thing that we can do it and become, Apple's in a completely different lane. Obviously, DeFi is not the same as what they're producing, but I think we can be an Apple level company. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I love that. It's important to feel excited, confident about whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's big or small. So honestly, hats off to you for that. So kind of just where in the world did you get your start in the world of crypto, or maybe you got your start on the finance side of things? Give us a short intro on you, Matt, and what brought you to founding or finding, I guess,
Yeah.
founding Spicenet.
Yeah, for sure. So my parents didn't name me Paprika Inferno.
No way.
They named me Matthew because obviously, like, they knew I was going to be really good at math, so and better at telling jokes,
There we
obviously.
go.
But no, I was just always someone that was super curious, and when I heard about something new and exciting, I would really put my all into it. So I was obsessed with basketball when I was younger, and then it was making music, and then everything kind of changed when my cousin showed me the Bitcoin white paper. I was like 14 years old. So my cousin's like sending this around to people in our family. At the time, Bitcoin's like this joke. Everyone in our family saying like, you're an idiot. What's this magic internet money? And I'm like, wait a minute. I read it. I'm like, oh, I think this might change the world, right? So then when I got my first job at a grocery store, I was like buying Bitcoin with my grocery store paychecks that I was taking home.
Hmm.
And as you guys know, that aged well. And then I was lucky enough to get my first job in the industry when I was in first year of university. So I was like studying computer engineering and then at the same time working as a developer slash analyst for Magnus Capital, which is a crypto fund.
Yeah.
And that eventually just led me to using crypto enough to wanting to build in it. And after a long path of, crypto success in some places, failures in others. Like it led me to Spicenet, and yeah, Spicenet's the brokerage network for DeFi. So we're going to be enabling universal access to all of the best venues across the whole sector.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's always such a unique conversation just hearing about how people kind of got their start. And what year was that when you were working in the grocery store and for making your first investments into Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, that was like 8 to 10 years ago now. So like I'm 23. I'm a pretty young founder, but I was a lot younger when I was just like punting money into Bitcoin, and I didn't know that it would turn into a career for me. I just thought like I had the FOMO.
Yeah. So my kind of guess and assumption here is that you got your foot in the door buying Bitcoin and stuff. So I guess like when did that start to become something that you actually entertained as, oh, this might actually, come along? And obviously the idea of smart contracts on the blockchain probably opened those doors. But where did it go from, you're buying Bitcoin at the same time, eventually kind of studying computer science, and then realizing that this whole world is kind of expanding? What did that kind of look like for you?
Totally, yeah. So it was a pretty natural progression, and I wouldn't say it was like one moment where it's like, oh, now I'm in it. Like I was talking to this fund. I had a friend that worked there, and simultaneously was like taking the profits I had made from that Bitcoin I was buying, and like seeing what I could do with it. Oh, now there's these other currencies. There's altcoins. I took some of the money and invested it in trading school. So I was like figuring out how to actually analyze the market and act in it.
Yeah.
And naturally, that just led to me wanting to work in it. Like I'm sitting at university learning how to code, and I'm like, I want to apply my coding knowledge as well as my knowledge for analytics and my love for trading the market and work at a VC. It kind of just seemed like the perfect fit for me there.
Yeah. So quick little hot take here. Are you a Bitcoin maximalist, or have you definitely shifted your interests to more altcoins? And especially when it comes to actually
Mhm.
building versus investing, are you shifted away from Bitcoin, or is that still a focus of yours in some way?
No, I mean, I think Bitcoin's the goat, and it'll continue to be the goat. It's really a different asset class than altcoins. But I think as a technology, and this is kind of where things get blended where they shouldn't. It's like you have Bitcoin and you have the Bitcoin network, right? And the things that you could do on that network are quite limited. Then you have all of these other networks where you can do a lot more stuff. And I'm very bullish on all the applications on what you can do on these networks. That doesn't necessarily mean that Ethereum deserves to be worth more than Bitcoin,
Mhm.
right? Because you're like comparing digital gold to Ethereum, which I think more of like as a company that generates revenue and just has a really sick product.
Yeah. So you mentioned that Spicenet is this form of a brokerage network. So for those who have never heard that term before, in your own words, what is your definition of a brokerage network?
Yeah, a brokerage network is, I mean, like a traditional broker would give you access to financial instruments and markets that you don't have access to. A brokerage network does the same, but since we're interacting in DeFi, we do it in a way that is non-custodial. So you're still holding your own funds. You are choosing what you want to act on. You're choosing what venues you want to use. We're just giving you easy access to those venues. Now, that can mean whether you're a user or a product developer, which is my favorite actually as a previous product developer.
Okay, cool, cool. So you kind of touched on this just a little bit, but before Spicenet, it sounds like you were on Solana for a little bit. Kind of what is the story of what led Spicenet to being what it is today, and what are you building on? Have you decided on that? What kind of phase of the process are you in right now?
Absolutely, yeah. So on Solana, we were building PepperDEX, and this is how I met my co-founder as well. He was building a different DEX on Solana at the time, and I'm looking at his team, and I'm just like, man, I really don't want to try to compete against these guys. Like they're just a stacked team of devs devoting their lives to this, right? So I was like, I'd much rather work with them. And that's when we were working together under PepperDEX. Now, we ran into all sorts of issues at the time where Solana didn't have the users that it had nowadays. It didn't have the liquidity that it has nowadays. So like we're building our project, but at the same time we're kind of just sitting there like sitting ducks and like saying like, please Solana summer, please Solana summer. Like we need the users and liquidity to show up and then we'll be successful, which we thought was ridiculous, but there was no real solution to it. So what other people were doing were like deploying smart contracts on different blockchains and trying to deploy on every blockchain that they wanted to get users from. And we just didn't have like the time to do that. It's a headache. You fragment your liquidity. There's all sorts of issues. And then we wanted to offer assets from different chains. It's like we can't integrate with every venue that we want to offer assets from. So we built Spicenet as a solution to that. And we actually just built it as a solution for ourselves. We're like, oh, we're going to build PepperDEX on this. It's going to be its own layer one network. And then halfway through building it, we're like, everyone else kind of needs this too. Like everyone that we talk to is jealous that we have this and they don't. And so then we decided to build it as a service that anyone on any blockchain can actually integrate. And it still has its own layer one, but that's only so it can serve people best across all of these different blockchains.
Very cool. So definitely you are kind of unsiloing all of the complications currently facing decentralized applications and especially decentralized exchanges from the different languages that each of these are built on, and bringing all of like that capital in. Obviously, when it comes to kind of creating something we're excited about, we want people to use it. And that's funny you mentioned kind of like the idea of like waiting around for kind of like this Solana summer. Like we need more users, need more liquidity, and you guys seems like you just went straight to the source. Like, all right, let's just kind of diversify who can use this across the board. So did you guys have some early successes with people using some early forms of Spicenet, or how did you really
Yeah.
start to take this more seriously?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's happening right now. Like even within the past month, it's really been like 0 to 1 in terms of no clients to like 20 clients waiting to
Oh,
integrate this. Either they've said they want it or they've signed a contract, or it's like we've built the integration for them already and we're just waiting to roll out that into their public test net. But yeah, I mean, so there's two products, and I'll briefly tell you about both of them, and then I'll tell you who's integrating the first one. The
perfect.
second one we haven't quite announced yet, but I can give you a brief on it. So you have Spice Flow, which is our distribution product, and it's pretty simply just you build where you are, where it's best for your tech, and then you bring that technology to users everywhere. So what I mean by this is like you want to build Bitcoin finance, you build on this Bitcoin layer two, like Citria, right? It's the best place for you to build that application. So you build it there, but then Citria doesn't have the users that Ethereum does. We would distribute you to those users and make it natively usable from those other blockchains without you needing to redeploy smart contracts over there or without needing them to bridge over to you. So already we have about 20 clients kind of in the pipeline that have integrated that, and then more that we're building integrations for. I can't give you the full list, but some names are Zenith, FarrowSwap, Venice, and BrokeX. If I'm forgetting everyone, sorry, but yeah, those are the ones I can remember that we've announced publicly off the top of our head.
That's great. And in terms of like you're building a layer one, correct?
Yeah,
So
correct.
when
So
it,
we've built the layer one. Yeah.
so when it comes to these particular individuals and infrastructures in your pipeline, I guess, is there a huge difference in I guess what is prepared? Like, are you on like mainnet or everything? Is it devnet? Is it testnet? Is everything good to go in public?
Yeah, so we're in our own test net right now.
Gotcha.
It's not so traditional in the sense that it's like now we're in public test net because it's really up to the decision of our clients when they want to use us in their public test net. So that's something that they can do right now. We're waiting for the first ones to actually roll that out, but we're kind of on the cusp of that and then looking to go mainnet at the end of the year.
Nice. So kind of like day to day, like actual usage, like there's not any huge difference between once this is, mainnet versus your public or your private kind of testnet you said that it was, or
Mhm.
devnet,
Yeah, so we're in a public test net right
public
now. It's
test.
just
Gotcha.
it's it's not in the same sense as other public test nets where it's like there's a bunch of people waiting to use it. Oh, now everyone can use it. It's like right now people can integrate it in their public test net.
Gotcha. Cool. So
Yeah.
like just like person to person, like what excites you so much about this? Obviously, you got your start in cryptocurrency as an investor, but now you're developing things. So whenever you wake up every day, what do you feel is kind of just like most motivating and exciting for you as a founder?
I would say seeing other founders that have ran into the same problems as us figure out that they have a solution to this problem.
Do you have any good examples of
That
that? That's great.
Yeah, that right there is I mean, like, the people that are integrating us are doing it because they really need access to users, and as a DeFi builder, like, this is all you really care about, right? I want people to use my product, but that doesn't mean you should build it where all the users are. That's what people do right now, but then you end up with no differentiation between the apps.
Hmm.
So what we can do is actually spread out, build apps in specific places where they're meant to be built. That's what's going to allow it to have a better user experience, better use cases, but then bring it to those users. And that's really exciting to me is I feel like we're enabling people to build where their technology belongs, but still be able to get access to the users.
Cool. So when you say meant to be built, what do you mean by that? Because obviously, I think that there are some clear benefits that other chains and other languages may kind of bring to the table. But when you say build things where they're meant to be built, what does that mean?
Yeah, so it's up to your opinion where you think something's meant to be built, but I would say like and I know as a developer myself, like back in the day, it was like we know that we should build this on Solana, but the users and liquidity is on Ethereum. And an example of that nowadays is like you have specific chains for RWAs. Like you have Injective building really solid out of the box architecture for people that want to build very finance heavy applications. So what you can build on Injective is going to be more powerful than on Ethereum for that niche of use cases, right? So in my mind, like that's where those applications should be built. And shout out Injective. We had our announcement with them go out yesterday. If you haven't seen it, check out our page. But yeah, like you should build some things on Injective instead of building them on Ethereum. But if you're on Ethereum as a user, you should still be able to access and use that application.
Okay, so it sounds like it has more to do with what kind of the use case is rather than what language, because I understand that blockchains don't all speak the same language. You kind of have to rewrite them in different languages, which I'm sure is important. But what you're saying is it's
Mhm.
more important to build for the use case rather than for whatever particular coding language you want to use, and especially trying to pursue, some user base or some capital that is already existent, like you mentioned with Ethereum. Is that about right?
Yeah, I mean the language can be a reason why it would be better to build somewhere rather than somewhere else. Like Rust as a language is very fast. It's a little bit harder to code in, but that's why Solana has been able to have such high throughput is partially because of the language that it's coded in and the language that it interprets. So I think that goes into where it's best to build your application. But yeah, like obviously if I know one language and then all of the users are on a chain that uses a language that I don't know, that sucks for me. Like it's like, oh, I don't know how to build where the users are right now.
Yeah. So speaking of those users, are they still mostly over on Ethereum? Are you seeing any real significant kind of expansion of communities, of users, and of capital beyond Ethereum from your perspective?
Yeah, like I mean, it's moving to other ecosystems. I would say it's still mostly EVM, and
Mhm.
like for now, that's really where we're focusing on. We're only deploying on EVM chains. We will move to add SVM later on and some of the other VMs, but it's still mostly EVM, and it still is like Ethereum is the largest chain user wise, but over time that's shifting, and even like if you're an application on Ethereum and you have access to whatever, like 30% of the users and capital in the space, you still probably want access to that other 70%.
Yeah, totally. So you've mentioned definitely a few problems that Spicenet is seeking to address and solve, obviously. So, kind of for our viewers out there, what is the problem, in your own words, that Spicenet realized and is seeking to solve?
Okay. So here's an interesting thing, and I'm guilty of this as well. Everyone is saying that fragmentation is a bad thing. And I've done this before, so before everyone goes and pulls up a video of me saying like fuck fragmentation, which I have done, I'm acknowledging it, right? But I don't think fragmentation is a problem. I think fragmentation is actually a really great opportunity. So, like I said before, there's a whole lot of different ecosystems, and there's a lot of really strong reasons to build in these different ecosystems. And I'm glad that we have all of these different VMs, we have all these different chains, different tech stacks, because it means that we're going to get a differentiation in applications. This is great because now we're experimenting and we're doing all sorts of different stuff. We're not just constrained to one stack, right? Now, the problem is not that we have all of these different avenues and they're all different tech stacks. The problem is that it's hard to access all of them, and especially from one place. So, just because something is built using a different tech stack doesn't mean that the end user should have to understand that and figure out how to create a new wallet that works with that tech stack, bridge funds over to it. They should be able to just use it and not know that it's built using a different thing. Like this is actually where we'll end up with DeFi, is like less so, oh, Solana is like a front end and Ethereum's a different front end. People will just be using applications with the funds that they want to use. And they might not even know that crypto is like doing it in the back end, right? It'll just be like this back end for finance.
Yeah. It seems as though today, like, the common conversation is like this idea of a abstraction of the blockchain, of course. And it's almost
Mhm.
as if just there's just like something that's worked so well in this traditional sense of web 2, of your classic web page and the traditional system of banking and finance that just allows money to flow within borders, somewhat seamlessly. Now, as soon as we start talking about moving over borders and into different currencies, then that starts to definitely propose some hiccups. So I love what you said about how fragmentation is not a problem, but it's a huge opportunity, how it leads to differentiation in applications. So, as a founder, you mentioned that you're younger, 23 years old. That's
Yeah.
definitely incredible to hear that you're already up and running with something. So, when it comes to addressing problems, how do you, as a founder, pivot if a problem is something that needs a workaround, or if a problem is in fact an opportunity that just needs to be pushed into to find what the solution
Mm.
is?
Oh, that's a good question, dude. Yeah, I mean, like you try things, right? I would say experimentation is the main thing that leads to innovation. And sometimes your opinion changes, right? Like I used to think fragmentation was this beast of an issue because I felt it when trying to build an application in one environment, and it was only through like iterations of building the solution and thinking about it that you realize, oh, wait a minute, like it's actually pretty cool that we have all these different blockchains. We just need to do this. And now once we do this, like we've unlocked the power of it and it's great. So that can definitely happen over time. And honestly, I think as humans, that is sort of our nature. That's how technology progresses. Like most of the time something new is created, it's just rejected, right? Bitcoin, but there's many examples before Bitcoin where the internet even there's like quotes about people talking about the internet saying like it's a fad, it's like for nerds, whatever. It's the same type of language that people use to talk about crypto nowadays is how they talked about the internet before. And now like you're a baby, you're 2 years old, you understand, you're using the internet, right? You understand that it's this thing and we cannot live without it. So that's like the same with a lot of my opinions, even when it comes to a problem versus a solution. A lot of things that I thought were problems are actually opportunities.
Yeah, and that's such a strong mindset, I think, to adapt there is seeing something as an opportunity and rather than just like sitting there and complaining about something, but be completely solution oriented. And in doing so, realize exactly what you just said, which I'll quote you on it, is that experimentation leads to innovation. Powerful little
Yeah.
quote there from you, Matt. I guess I want to take a small tangent here just to make sure that we touch on artificial intelligence being it's been something I think that kind of came to mind whenever you mentioned this idea of like you had just said it in what you were sharing about kind of new ideas get rejected. You said it a little bit more eloquently there, but when it comes to artificial intelligence, this is something that I think began to ingrain in the mind of the public ever since the Google search became something like, oh, I have a question, I want to seek something out, I'll Google it. And so I think that there
Yep.
was a small seed planted that once artificial intelligence became really marketed by ChatGPT, OpenAI from the get-go, it seems like something that the world has not rejected, but has rather almost like fallen head over heels into it. So I'm going to
Yeah.
pause right there before I ask any further question too specifically or narrow. What is your take on AI today in September 2025? Do you use it? Do you hate it? What are your thoughts as a developer as well?
Dude, yeah. If you're not using AI at this point, like it's kind of like, what are you doing? Like, I'm sorry, but like developers, like if you're a writer, I mean, I talk to my Chat GPT or sometimes Grok, Perplexity if I'm researching. Like I talk to all of these things all of the time, just because like no one's gonna sit next to me and listen to all of my ideas and like be a soundboard. So like throughout my whole day, I probably have 10 different conversations that I open up with my Chat GPT every day. Like I mean, yeah, you can't not really like. I think about somebody joining the workforce now that like doesn't know how to use AI at all versus somebody that does. It's like one of those employees is just three of the other employee because they can get ChatGPT to do something while they're thinking about something else and come back to it. Like it really does speed up the shipping speed for whatever it is you're doing. And I think that's a really good point that you said as well. Like a large reason why it hasn't been rejected by humanity is because we've been able to chew on it for so long. Like we did originally laugh at it. If you go back and look at movies where there's AI in it, it's like made up to be this like goofy thing where we're like it's like this goofy robot whatever. And we've digested it over time. Once the tech actually existed, we've already digested this for like 10, 15 years. We're ready for it.
Yeah. So that, I mean, just kind of riffing here. Earlier, you mentioned in the problem versus opportunity conversation that it brings about differentiation in applications, which you think is a net positive. Much more that I could say about that. But how about in the context of artificial intelligence? I see a lot about people claiming it's clear that some people are using ChatGPT in some of their writing,
Mhm.
and my
Totally.
curiosity is. I guess I always have this habit of asking too many questions at once. So I'll put it this way: Do you think
Yeah.
do you think that there is a real problem, or what is the word I'm looking for here? Do you think that there is a risk? Is the right word of
Of
people
course.
overusing artificial intelligence specifically in the world of writing code? Do you think that using these artificial intelligences and large language models is actually going to kind of like narrow kind of the differentiation in applications because it's all kind of being put through the same
Mm.
sort of filter? How do you remain original in creation and also utilize artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so I think AI is best suited as like an extension of oneself and not a replacement. So like yeah, I could get AI to pump out an answer to your question and like send it to you and then you're like, "Oh, this is pretty generic," and you can kind of tell it's AI written. But if I sit down and work with it and keep prompting it, bringing up new ideas with it, understanding what it's saying, introducing a lot of my own ideas. Like eventually you end up with a product from it that is a lot of your own thinking and it's not just like a one prompt send. And then anytime I'm doing any writing, like I end up writing the thing myself. You want to use your own voice. You want to be your own person. And the things that don't do that don't hit as hard. Like, so I don't think we're at risk of ending up with a bunch of products that are all AI generated and all generic, because those things won't stand out as much. They won't be as relatable to us as humans. And we're just going to kind of look over those things. But absolutely, people will use AI to fuel their creative process, or whatever their process is, and then inject the right amounts of themselves to be able to get to the best overall product.
Yeah, love that. I mean, obviously, artificial intelligence has so many different use cases. I've spoken to some other individuals in the space, and they definitely talk about using it for the sake of research rather than hopefully. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that just insert a prompt, just copy and paste it and push send, whatever it is. So I think that that's definitely the right way to see it. What you mentioned, that is about it being an extension kind of yourself. But yeah, any other hot takes about how the world of DeFi may look like in a future of artificial intelligence, and how is Spicenet perhaps preparing for that?
So yeah, I mean, there's the AI agent thesis that like the maxis will tell you, 90% of volume across DeFi is going to be executed by AI agents. Quite possible. I think that the nice thing about Spicenet is wherever the future of DeFi takes us, like you're going to need to have easy access to the instruments, and that's our whole thing, right? So that kind of is our thesis, and why I, as an application developer, would be integrating Spicenet is like, you want to take advantage of new opportunities that come onto the blockchain. And I'll tease Spice Edge, which is our second product, a little here. That's essentially what Spice Edge is, right? You're creating one integration, and now you're able to tap into all of the other markets and primitives that come onto the blockchain, no matter what blockchain they're on. So no matter what direction it moves in, you're kind of the first person to be able to integrate new technology, which means that you're always going to be at the forefront of that relative to your competitors who have to build one by one integrations with the new tech that comes out. So yeah, I mean, that's how Spicenet fits into it, is like, regardless of whether it's AI that's transacting, or what markets are the ones that succeed across the blockchain, like Spicenet's going to allow you to keep up with that and continue to tap into those things.
That's great. And you've already managed to get some serious traction. You mentioned some of the people already working with that public test net. So, on top of that, some backers like Hack VC and Magnus, I believe you mentioned as well. So, for some of these
Yeah.
partners, can you share any major wins that they are reporting back, having used SpiceNet for some time now?
So I think the best reaction is just anytime we tell somebody about this is like something you can integrate. We have a very high success rate in terms of people wanting to be interested and wanting to integrate this, right? So that, first of all, we knew was a win once we started pitching the right thing to the right clients, is like, how many people want this? And now that we're actually building the integration for people, it's like the same reaction, right? It's very automatic. Yes, this is something we want. So I think we'll get to see the power of that when it comes to the actual users once we hit mainnet. But in terms of like the reception we get, that's the biggest verification that we're doing something right. Not focusing too much about like the social metrics, all the other BS that a lot of crypto projects focus on, but it's like when real founders who are building real applications are telling you that they want your thing and that your thing is helpful, that's like all I need to hear to keep going.
That's great. So when it comes to onboarding, how quickly can you go from 0 to 1? And essentially, how many teams at this point do you think you could reasonably handle onboarding? And how long would that take?
Yeah, so for the limited time, we're building it for people, kind of getting it off the ground. I don't know if we'll always do that, but we'll put out our documentation, and like people can start integrating it themselves. And this thing could really just snowball and take off to a point where we don't know all the people that are using SpiceNet. I expect that will happen after we hit mainnet.
Yeah, which you mentioned mainnet will be kind of coming towards the end of the year. Is that a major milestone for you guys, I'm sure?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's like we can't wait. I mean, we can't even leave the desk right now. Like there's a reason why we're not in Korea this week or Singapore for token. It's like we just have to lock in and spend every waking hour basically at the desk until we get there. The team's very devoted to that launch, and yeah, we're all really enjoying seeing us progress into it.
that's great. So tell us more about the team and behind the scenes. Who is building alongside you day to day?
Okay, yeah. So speaking of young founders, my co-founder just like actually a child prodigy, like no joke, not a child anymore,
Yeah,
but younger than I am, and the smartest person I've ever talked to. Like
I
it's
believe you. I
insane,
believe you.
and I think he's like built to be a founder. Like this is why it's so fun to work with him. I remember a conversation we had a while back. I'm like, oh man, like when Spicenet's like super successful and huge, like you could retire in your 20s. What are you gonna do next? He's like, build the next thing. Like he said this to me like I was an idiot for asking this question. He's like, I would start another company and like build the next thing that the world needs. I was like, yeah, dude, I made the right decision working with you.
Hmm.
And yeah, he's surrounded himself with like-minded devs that are just as committed to the cause. They're often pulling all-nighters trying to get that integration over the edge so we can get it to the project the next day. And yeah, that dedication is something you can't buy really, and it's probably the most inspiring thing about doing what I do is that I get to work with a bunch of people that feel the same way.
Yeah. So what is the name of your co-founder?
Yeah, his name's Karthik. On Twitter, he's spicy as Maximus.
Cool. And I may be misremembering here, but he been on any of the podcasts that you do? Because Spicenet does have a podcast that you guys put out there. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. He's been on Spicy Takes. He's a more infrequent guest than I, but whenever he comes on, it's a hoot. But yeah, I think he was on like 2 weeks ago when him and one of our devs were covering Spice Flow and going into more of the technical details of the integration. So yeah, if you guys want to check that out, that's on our Twitter page as well as our LinkedIn, and we do that every Friday. So
And what is the common
see you there.
theme? Are there common themes on what is the name of it again? Hot takes?
Spicy Takes, yeah,
Spicy takes. My apologies.
yeah.
Is the theme, as it kind of says, like news headlines or kind of like hot takes, spicy takes, or is that just kind of the branding and you guys get into the weeds of technicalities and all sorts of stuff?
Yeah, so we try to keep it like away from shilling our product too much. We think there's a lot of podcasts out there that are just like, oh, come listen to us talk about how great we are. So we're usually more focused on like the guests that we have on, their stories and their opinions on what's happening in the market. We'll usually select like one general um, subject. So it could be like you were asking me before, like, is there risks of everything becoming super generic with AI? Like that could be something that we start talking about and it's the subject line and then we see where that takes us throughout the conversation. But it's yeah, it's pretty loose and we like to bring people on and let them share their opinions and their spicy takes.
Love that. Yeah, there is a whole world. Obviously, we're on a podcast here, but the whole world of podcasting, I think it really takes something really entertaining and fun to keep people listening and tuning into those episodes. So lots of little lessons that we could take from there and probably talk about as well. But obviously, we are here for Spicenet, talking all about what you guys are doing over there, talking about how crypto has become a bit infrastructure heavy but application poor. Many new L1s and
Mhm.
L2s claim high throughput, but apps remain limited because they can only access liquidity and states on their native chain. So this is kind of the thesis, the overarching view of Spicenet. And I'm curious to hear from you, Matt. You mentioned your co-founder was kind of, all right, if I tackle tackle this thing, then I'll just move on to the next thing. So let's just pretend that your sole project for the rest of your life will be Spicenet. What are the immediate challenges your team is facing right now? And once those challenges have been solved, what do you foresee or predict could be the next major barrier in the world of DeFi?
Wow. Okay. The challenges that we're facing as a team right now, I would say with mainnet approaching and all of this demand for our product, it's a matter of having the liquidity to serve those customers. So that's something we're going to look to do is basically like what Hyperliquid did with HLP, open up to the public to deposit and fuel our liquidity and be able to serve those first clients. And yeah, that's one of my main focuses right now is like making sure that that goes well and we have enough liquidity to serve those first clients. I think from there it'll kind of scale itself because it's like there will be enough demand where that liquidity posted on our network is generating enough yields, and then that leads to more demand, leads to more liquidity. So it'll kind of work itself out. But yeah, we need to be able to bootstrap that network out of the get go, and then as for like sector wide difficulties that I think the industry is going to face, um, oh, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would ask you the same. What do you think is going to maybe hold our industry back in the next 5 years?
Well, I can say that perhaps this is overinformed from looking back on the past, I'll say like 4 years, because I've seen a lot of decentralized exchanges kind of pop up over the last few years, and this also has a question baked into it because I see a lot of protocols, saying, "Hey, come and use our platform," and yes, this is what it does for you, but what's the incentive? It's like people just basically just like farming all this liquidity left and right, but nobody new is really kind of coming on board and adding fresh new capital. It's kind of just like trading hands. And obviously we've seen over the past summer really a larger perspective of Ethereum treasury companies coming in and buying up Ethereum, and who's to say what implications that could hold. um
Mhm.
but yeah, as always, I think just like ensuring that there's a consistent stream of new users that are becoming not just interested, but feel a need, not a want, but a need to use the
Yeah.
blockchain, use DeFi, not just for the incentives, because I think that touches more on the risk of just washing back and forth and among all these different protocols. But yeah, I think that answers my question. Is just a question of the ages, is just adoption, and it seems so
Yeah.
far that has been driven by price go up. Oh, price went up, so now all your friends are asking you. You're getting texts from people you haven't heard from in years, and it's only because the price hit the headlines. And I would love to see real natural usage. And yeah, you asked me a question and I could
Yeah.
just riff and tangent on
Yeah.
that for a minute.
No, I mean, I'd like to add on to that. So I think that you have to provide use cases that the rest of the world wants to use, and the rest of the world doesn't care to use a lot of these DeFi applications because A, the user experience is really hard, so it's inaccessible to them, and then B, they can't use the assets that they actually care about. Like most people don't care if you can lend and borrow your Ethereum, all like let alone all of like the shit coins that are in the space, right?
Mhm.
But if all of a sudden, like your average Apple stockholder can go and lend it out and get some yield on it, or any number of other opportunities that DeFi presents, well, now you have an easy to convince way to bring people into the market, right? Like you want to get paid more to hold what you're holding, or any number of things, right? So we need to be able to make the products that are in DeFi accessible to the people and the assets that aren't DeFi native, right? And then we need to be able to make it so that that user experience isn't something that's a hurdle they're climbing over. It's something they're used to, or something that's even easier than what they're used to. So whether that means like using products through your bank app, um, and then someone like Spicenet actually brokering the connection to the blockchain, or maybe there's a new type of application that we haven't thought of yet that's going to be even easier to use than your bank app. That's the only way that you're going to get all these people that aren't DeFi native to actually participate.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, that brings up such kind of challenging questions, not just for us in this conversation, but for the industry at large, because at the root of it all is blockchain, is self custody, is that fact that I don't need permission from my bank to transact and to do whatever it is with my funds. So how do you think that bleeds in the most healthy way to where people are using blockchain and the abstraction is improved so much so that people don't even know it, but at the same time that isn't overexposing them to the risk of like, oh, I didn't realize that my funds were on this key and now it's gone forever and I can't just contact my bank to say, hey, can you reset my password? Like, how do we
Yeah,
balance this? Make sure you know these things before you dive in, but also dive in and don't realize that you're, using a completely different kind of like protocol of
totally.
rules.
Totally, yeah. Like not everyone should manage their own keys, I would say. I think for a lot it's awesome. And I think that if anything, you can have centralized solutions that still have more free will because that becomes the status quo with blockchain. It becomes a lot easier for people to transact 24 hours of the day and permissionlessly.
Hmm.
So naturally, like even if you have a centralized solution that's in charge of recovering funds and making sure they don't end up somewhere where the user doesn't have access to it, you'll end up with like a better, more fair system because that's what's backing it. But I do think that like a lot of people like banks aren't a bad thing. You know, like a lot of people aren't responsible enough to be their own bank,
Hmm.
right? So like we can still have a solution like a bank and then have all of these products that make that solution so much more powerful and fair to the end user. I do think that there is risk about how that's regulated and like with centralized actors trying to kind of build on top of the blockchain and abstract a lot of the complexities. Like, you know, do they get greedy and we end up with like a lot of the same restrictions that we have now? Yeah, like that's probably going to happen a little bit. It's you know, I'm hoping we land somewhere in the middle where it becomes easy and also enough freedom. But I think that there will be providers that are offering those as better options, and people will at least have the choice and like a spectrum of how decentralized they want to go with their finance.
Yeah. It's yeah, in the world of Web3 at large, I think that basically summarizes it is there are a lot of problems, but within these problems is just like so much opportunity for expansion and adoption. And it's
Totally.
just, anyone's guess how exactly it's all going to unfold. I just, for me personally, my journey in Web3 started at Bitcoin. And then eventually I heard people at work talking about NFTs, and coming out of the 2017 2018 ICO craze, I basically just protected myself. Anything but Bitcoin is a scam, basically. But then coming to
Yeah.
find out, like, oh no, NFTs are actually really cool and a different way for
Yeah.
people to interact with the blockchain. And then down the road, that led me personally to learning about decentralized finance, DeFi, through providing liquidity to a DEX, doing my own diligence to understand, all right, what exactly am I getting myself into? And I personally really enjoyed the whole journey of these little pieces that incentivize people to just naturally learn about what it is that they're doing. Like if you own an NFT, like what makes this special, and then just like diving in and kind of doing your own research. So I guess just
Yeah.
shifting the focus back to Spicenet, I guess what is going to be that thing, whether it's Spicenet specifically or the industry that you're catering to at large, what's going to be that thing that people are like attaching onto, like, ooh, wow, like this is really cool, let me learn more about it. And then it kind of like expands their mind because of their interest. They invested a little bit more knowledge into learning about what it is.
For Spicenet, like you don't even really have to count on that,
Mm,
right? We just have to count on founders understanding that this is something that their project needs and then integrating it. I think a lot of users might not even know that we exist,
mhm.
right? Like, And it doesn't really matter
Yeah.
because we're able to offer a non-custodial solution for you to gain access to these other products. So like if we can make a product better and the user doesn't know that we exist and we're not creating like a lot of risk for them, then like I don't really care that much about convincing people that we need to exist. Like I know that the founders will see that.
Yeah. That's good enough for me. I mean, it's almost like a hidden benefit that you guys have positioned yourself in such a way that the users, all those individuals out there, don't need to know that Spicenet is backing it up. It's kind of like this silent player moving the pieces in the background, and all
Yeah.
these others that use your tech stack will be, the ones that are more in charge of attracting people to use whatever product it is that they're bringing to the table.
Yeah. I said that to a guy once. He was like, "Well, why would I care about your product?" I'm like, "Well, you don't, and that's the point.
Yeah.
Like, you don't care about my product because it's like you don't even have to know it exists. It's just everything's easier, and we do our own thing."
Yeah. All right. So we're closing in our last 5 to 10 minutes here. I've got a few kind of more official, we'll call them questions. Then I want to talk a little bit about community, and then we'll close out with a few final hot takes from you, Matt. How does that sound?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Cool. So this is a little bit more about funding and the team. We mentioned some of those backers that you have. You've raised a few million in funding. So I guess where do you find your team at large is kind of using that and deploying that capital? And when it comes to the structure of the team, you mentioned co-founders and such. Do you guys have a formal organization within your team? Like, do you have a financial officer or somebody in charge of finance that's doing those things?
Mhm.
Or is it just a lot of kind of like hat sharing amongst everybody who's behind the scenes at Spicenet?
Yeah, that would be me for the most part. And then like as for the team, we kind of Karthik has like half the team under him. I have half the team under me. So like all the dev is under Karthik, and we are quite dev heavy. Product first, right?
Mhm.
And then marketing and operations design is under me. And I mean like just keeping it simple is sort of my mantra. Like people are there to do their work. They're inspired, and anything that makes our structure too complex kind of gets in the way of that. So we hire people not so we can like tell them exactly where they fit in and what our structure is and like mold them to be exactly this way. We hire people so that they can tell us what we need to know, and we can listen to them, and we can trust them to be able to do their own work because we're all building towards the same outcomes. So that's sort of our leadership style, is like create high expectations for the output we're going to get, align on what those outputs are, but then from there, it's like, do it the way you need to do it.
Yeah, great response there. That sounds like a fun job, kind of, just having a team underneath you. And it's you mentioned, just to reiterate, that Karthik is on the kind of the dev side with the team underneath him, and you're more operations and design. Yeah.
Yeah. He operates as like our CTO. I operate as our COO. Yeah, we don't technically have like one CEO. Karthik and I kind of steer the ship together.
Cool. So I guess let's say some proverbial time in the future, Spicenet is low on funds. What do you think would be the pivot move for Spicenet in terms of maintaining sustainability, perhaps in a long-term bear market where liquidity and users are not showing up the way we wanted them to, and we need to
Mhm.
cut down something to keep this going? What do you think that would look like for you? How would Spicenet pivot?
Yeah, I mean, like we're not building for cycles. I believe strongly in like trying to build like a traditional company and produce revenue, and then try to build your value from there. Not as much like, oh, let's launch a token while the market's hot, and then if the market dies, then oh, we're screwed. So I don't foresee it being like a major issue where we're caught off guard, because we're just thinking about rolling things out as they're ready, not as much about trying to time the market. Um, that's it's difficult to say like what cuts we would make if we ran out of funding. Luckily, that won't happen within like the next couple of months. It won't happen when we're launching. So right now we focus and lock in on that launch. And if that time comes, then we have to assess the situation at that time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Always kind of a day by day thing, but it's always good to have some money in the bank. Resource is a very valuable thing. Obviously, we hope that it can buy us things that we want, but at the end of the day, resource buys us things that we need, and much more that I'm sure we could say about that. But I want to rotate a little bit and refer to just the idea of community. Obviously, you just kind of mentioned that the end user doesn't really need to know who it is that Spicenet is. It almost sounds like the community for you guys is your own, culture within Spicenet itself, but also some of these business partners and VCs that are kind of maybe helping you make decisions and stuff like that. How would you define the community for what Spicenet is?
Yeah, so I mean, we definitely lean on all the people that are around us a lot, especially as like young founders. I think there's a lot of great things about being a young founder. Like Karthik and I don't have a family and responsibilities to look after. We can spend like 16 hours at the desk if need
Bullish.
be, right? Yeah, exactly. And like even like our devs, like we moved them in, some of them moved in together into like a working apartment where they're just like living, grinding, eat, sleep, spice, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's those are all the bullish parts about being a young founder. But then obviously, like sometimes you need more experience in the room. You need somebody that's been through, three different startups or like, whatever it is, seen things build and fall apart 10 times over. And for those reasons, like, yeah, we're super glad that we have good VCs backing us and solid advisors in the network. And we just have to make sure that we're not afraid to lean on them because when it comes to answering the tough questions, like you do want to hear from somebody that has more experience to do that.
Yeah, being a young founder, I think that's, another one of those problem opportunity moments is sure,
Totally.
call it a problem. I might be young. I may not have some of the wisdom and the long-term advice of having, not just the success, but also the failure and the determination to
Yeah,
either, reset and try again or pivot and all the different lessons to be learned there. I mean, is that
totally.
that you're kind of feeling like you almost owe everybody you talk
For
to?
sure.
Like, all right, I see that you see that I'm young. Let me prove it to you somehow. Like, how do you deal with any sort of maybe like scrutiny you receive from being a young founder?
Yeah, I mean, I think actions speak louder than words. Like if we get on a call and we talk for long enough, and if they're able to just see the things we're executing on, then they know that we're handling our shit, right? Like no one can take that away from you. And I think even like the we have a bit of a chip on our shoulder, and that's like that works well for us because you have other experienced teams where people will throw money at them just because they've previously built a really solid thing, but those guys are a little bit more complacent, might not have as much time on their plate. Like we're sitting here hungry to go and prove everyone that we are more capable than any other team out there. And I think the more that we just continue to do that and not worry about what people think, the quicker that people's opinions change and go, oh wow, like these guys are a force to be reckoned with. So I don't spend too much energy trying to convince people that we're deserving of their praise. Like we'll just go out and earn it.
Yeah, that's perfect. I could, expand on that question even more, but I think, especially for the sake of time, I'll leave it at that. In the opposite sense, your words spoke, and I trust your actions show that, and you're very confident about what it is that your team is capable of, but also just your understanding as an individual, bringing yourself into the conversations. Age is not important, but if somebody is thinking about it, then it's something that maybe needs to be addressed. It doesn't sound like it's causing any sort of issues for you guys.
Yeah, no, I mean experience is important, and we just make sure that we have the experience around us to back it when we need it.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Mhm.
Enough of the tricky stuff. We'll end here with just a few kind of hot take questions for you, and then roll out the red carpet for you to share about what's coming in the next period, 6 to 12 months, maybe. Question for you, Matt. If you had to kill one buzzword forever, what word would it be?
Spicy, dude. It's so annoying, man.
Really?
Like, I hate when people call things spicy. No, I'm just
Like, I
playing.
was gonna say this is crazy.
It's like that's a bit hypocritical.
Sure.
um, no, I think like when people call things AI powered when they're not,
Mm,
or like there's like a small component that's AI powered, because I feel like it's like robbing from the people that are building really cool AI applications, because now you've made it like a memeable. Oh, it's AI powered. Like people start to kind of laugh whenever someone says that, but then there's a lot of really cool applications that are. So yeah, I mean, like if you're kind of overusing that term and you're not true to it, then I don't respect you.
facts, period. All right, so kind of similar but different. What's an ignorant take that you keep seeing come up in the world of DeFi?
Yeah, I think there's a notion that like Bitcoin OGs and OG holders are like rejecting DeFi, and that they'll never want to leverage the tools that DeFi has to offer. One example of that is like being able to earn yield on your Bitcoin. People say like, "Oh, the OG holder like just wants to hold their raw Bitcoin for dear life," but like there's more and more solutions that are coming out that are posing less and less trust assumptions, but allow you to earn on top of your Bitcoin. And as humans, we're greedy. If we can take some amount of capital and turn it into more, we do it. So that's something that people are going to do, and especially if a lot of people are investing in Bitcoin through like these treasury funds and these Bitcoin like micro strategy and stuff. Some of those are going to start out competing other ones by deploying into some of these yield strategies, and then that's the thing that people are going to understand is like that bottom line. Oh, this fund out competed this other fund. I'm going to invest in them. So yeah, naturally, Bitcoin will find its way into DeFi, and that's just kind of human nature that proves that.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought there because in hindsight, being that it is 2020, it's easy to look back and say, "Oh man, like skip all these DeFi opportunities. I'm just gonna buy and hold Bitcoin because look how well it's done." So here we are. We
Totally.
don't know what tomorrow will bring. Do you think that there is a risk for those OG Bitcoin holders that essentially the opportunities and the opportunities specifically to make more money leveraging DeFi with their Bitcoin. Do you think that that is having an impact, and or do you think that that will continue to have a larger impact on the overall market cap or valuation of Bitcoin as this raw asset?
Yeah, I mean, the it won't affect the valuation of the raw asset, other than maybe it becomes slightly more attractive, because not only can you hold it and like beat inflation and all of the other great things about Bitcoin, but there's more instruments that are safe for you to earn on top of it, which would kind of be one of the things that I think would bode better for like US dollars is you have like treasury bills. So like there is like a really safe, secure way to earn yield on top of it. So if anything, I think it just makes Bitcoin a more competitive asset. But naturally, like that has to prove itself. People have to believe it's safe. And that takes a bit of time for people to sort of adapt and realize that it's okay. We can put our Bitcoin here. We still have it when we want it. It doesn't take away my control of it, and I can earn on top of it.
Great. Love that answer. Hopefully the OGs are listening to you. But I think that's about all that we have time for today. As we close here, Matt, I'll say my thanks until the very end. But looking forward to the next 6 to 12 months, you mentioned that there's a mainnet on the way. Aside from that,
Mhm.
or if that is what you want to hype up right now, what is coming up? Major milestones, 6 to 12 months for Spicenet.
Yeah. So next month we have the Spice Edge announcement. I can't wait to tell you guys about that. We have a pretty large DeFi venue that's partnering with us for that as the first client. I think that's kind of our biggest announcement to date. So look out for that. We will have our mainnet around the end of the year. And up until that, we're just going to be absolutely cooking on like the social front, the incentives to get involved, the fun and games, like all the community activation stuff. And really the stuff that you guys are going to care about and you will not want to miss is what we're going to be cooking on into that mainnet launch. So please go give us a follow. That's at Spicenet.io. And yeah, you don't want to miss out on those things. So go do it.
Awesome. Great way to end it off, talking to and referring exactly to the community there, which I will do as well. Everybody, thanks so much for watching. Obviously, this has been a really fun conversation, not just learning about Spicenet, but about the story behind one of the founders here. We learned a little bit about the other founder as well. Sounds like just a team that's full of firepower. And Matt, you mentioned to follow Spicenet on X, and I'm also going to shout you out, Peprika _Inferno. It will be linked in the description below. But that's really all we have today. Matt, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been an awesome conversation with you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me, Steven.
Sure thing. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to drop a like, leave a comment, reach out to Matt and the whole Spicenet team on X and whatever platform you get into. It'll be a spicy next 6 to 12 months that will set the stage for much more. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.